We hope.
Which isn't even true, because most of the time we move it's because we need to get water. So it's no different lockdown versus normal, except for we're going back to the same spot today, and normally we will travel for more than an hour, even us.
We're off to get some water, and we wanted to take you guys with us, and we also wanted to catch up with some stories from the cut. We've got a few stories of our own. We've been, as you know, moored up in the same spot since sometime in March. So we've got a few stories to share, and you requested a bit of a catch up with Emma and Fiona from the Narrowboat Girl. So we're going to share our stories from the cut with them.
And we also wanted to do a little bit of an evening cruise today, not only because we let time get away from us and found out it's gone 6, so we had to hightail it for water.
Yes. So to have some dinner, catch up with Narrowboat Girl and get some water. So here we are winding again in our favourite winding spot that doesn't really look like a winding spot.
Because it's a corner.
Just a corner. We're gonna wind and go back to the water point. Usually we get the water first, but the side of the boat that is going to be on the water point if we turn has not been washed in several weeks. So I'm going to go wash that as well when we get to the right spot. To admit as well, one of the great things about where we're moored in between 2 water points and a Tesco and 2 winding holes is how much winding practice we've had. I am no longer nervous to wind the boat. I really am not at all, and I used to be quite nervous, so I feel like that has been a benefit for where we've moored up.
I feel it's also worth noting that we did a fair amount of turning around in our previous boat.
Yes.
But one thing that a lot of people will find if they do have more than one boat is that every boat handles slightly differently. So we haven't had a lot of opportunity up until now to fully learn how this boat wants us to do things when we're turning.
Yeah.
Which we now know.
Yeah. I was gossiping to my narrowboat neighbour, so Kath put the centre lines on, which means it's time for me to climb along the gunnel in my flip-flops to get the centre line again.
No, just flip it over. I showed you how to do it last time.
I'll try.
Only one.
The cats hate that noise, as you can imagine. There's our sunken boat again with the 2 ducks that own it. We're looking for names for these ducks. So if you have a suggestion of what to name the ducks of the sunken boat, please leave a comment below. So just quickly, while we're getting some water, we're going to catch up with Emma and Fiona from the Narrowboat Girl. So Fiona and Emma, thank you so much for joining us on the Narrowboat Experience. You are the most requested narrowboaters on our channel.
Yeah.
And you're always incredibly popular, I think, because you're so, you're both so lovely, and Emma is so well presented in her videos. Have things changed that much for you on board, do you think?
Probably the biggest thing that's kind of changed is we're not like as cruising. Obviously, we're not cruising as much. We have like a plan of like where we roughly want to go, and we had that plan in motion. We had just got back we were heading to Chester, but then obviously the whole lockdown thing came down, and they thought there's no point going there anymore because most of the shops will be closed, and we're not dealing with the dogs not being able to go to the shops. So I think the biggest change was kind of like just cruising around and stuff, and obviously videos, because we did a lot of cruising videos and we had like a bunch planned. So we had to change it around a little bit, obviously do a few different sort of styles and stuff while we couldn't cruise.
But for you, it hasn't changed.
But for you, I haven't changed. I still, because I have all like stuff to entertain me and stuff. I always used to game anyway. I watch my favorite program. I already do my homeschooling. Since I'm homeschooled, this is a perfect time for me to catch up on stuff. Since probably once lockdown's over, or like we can cruise more, I'll be doing a bit more cruising.
One of the things that I love about you, Emma, is your photography. Because you gave me my beautiful painting photo, which I have up on the cat shelf, and I love it. But also then I found some of your other photos as well, so I wanted to share them with everybody. So there's this great one just of the swan's head coming out of the grass, which I love. The thing that I notice about your photos is how much personality they have. Is photography something that you're really interested in?
Yeah, I always kind of, before I moved on to the boat, I really liked photography. Like, my mum used to run a leaflet business, so every time we would go around to like somebody's house, if they had like a pretty flower garden or something, I would get my mum's phone and like take pictures of the flowers and edit them. And once I got onto the boat, I realised how much I over-edited my photos.
Okay.
And like I definitely would have changed them around, because I like put the hue up like a bunch.
Right.
They were these vibrant pink flowers that looked insane.
Yeah.
So I kind of learned that certain photos don't need editing.
One of the things that people are most concerned about is how you're doing after your little incident with your neighbour. So we wanted to check that you're okay following that, and if you wanted to also,
reassure everybody.
Retell the story. And
this guy came out of his house and was walking with his two dogs, and the dogs kept jumping up at our window. It's happened a few times, and normally in the normal circumstance, if it wasn't in lockdown, we wouldn't really mind that much, because it's just. And then a few times after that, he came down with his two dogs and his child, and the two dogs again jumped up at our window, and then the child came right to the window and like poked his head. It was a girl. It was a girl. Poked her head through, or kind of like really close to the window. So obviously my mom went out and just kindly said to the guy, "Could you maybe get your dogs and child away from the window? We just came out of quarantine since the coronavirus. We don't want to infect anybody." Since we didn't know he was still infectious at that point. And then that guy took that really offensive, like he suddenly just went off saying like he owns the towpath and he can do what he wants, and first we should just move if we want to. And it's like at that point, we normally, if it was a normal circumstance, we would have just moved from that area. But obviously we couldn't at that point because the CRT said we couldn't move unless it was essential travel. So then the guy walked away, and then we just, the next few days, we just pulled down a little further. So then we could say that we weren't anywhere near his house. And then another time it happened, he was with his wife, and his dog, and the guy, what happened?
I think again, because the dogs were jumping. I mean, we don't have a problem with the dogs, but the dogs were jumping up at the window. Then it would make our dogs bark. Then he'd have to come to our boat to pull the dogs away. I just said we had lots of people walking past with no problems, and in fact, the boat in front had some problems because they had a disabled cat. So I think everybody was a bit stressed. We're really careful with our dogs. I mean, particularly if we see a boat with a cat. I mean, you know exactly. Our dogs go out one at a time on the leads.
Yeah.
Our dogs are quite reactive, so we just are very careful. So really the only conversation we had with him was about social distancing.
Yeah. We
didn't at any point say you couldn't walk past our boat. We just said, can you just socially distance, particularly with your child?
Because it wasn't a thin towpath at all. It was quite wide.
Okay.
You could have easily just kind of stayed on the other side.
I think the only reason we contacted the police was just the social distancing.
Yeah.
issue, because when we go into towns we have to stand behind stickered lines, and that's fine, but there's a lot of non-social distancing on the sort of tow paths.
Yeah, especially for people who think they own the area. I'm really sorry that happened. You've moved now, and do you feel a bit safer?
Yeah, we're kind of more around. We're in Nantwich now. It's we missed our old spot because it was like so quiet.
Yeah,
it would be very rare for somebody to like walk past, and if it did, it was generally probably just someone from the houses having a little walk. So now, but there's like a bunch of people walking past.
Yes, I'm glad you guys are safe and you've moved on, and that it's a good experience to share as well, because sometimes with narrowboating people think that it's all sunshine and roses, and especially because we get to be on the canal during lockdown and we've got some perceived amount of freedom, it's good to share those kind of stories and not have to be sensationalist about it either, but just share the reality of the story. So thanks, guys. Thanks so much for catching up with us, guys. We know that you are expert continual cruisers, and you are excellent storytellers and documentary makers, and that Emma has a series of extensive talents, and Fiona is of course lovely and doing an awesome job at parenting and narrowboating herself.
I think we just want to be very, very conscious of everybody and how everybody's feeling. I think we feel we want to go maybe back to some canals, because we know, I think the pandemic issues are going to go on for a while, so we just want to connect, perhaps be a little bit closer to sort of family and friends in the Midlands. So and we just want to be conscious of sort of the other boating community that maybe want to sort of stay, see what happens with the science. But I think it's just a time to be maybe try and be kind, look at other people's viewpoints, other people's kind of fears. I think we just felt we maybe just want some degree of familiarity.
It's been great talking to you guys, especially because it's a live talk. We have caught up with a few different boaters, Minimalist and Jono, and we do get accused for not having these conversations in real time. So I just wanted to prove that we are real time, and Emma can ask us a question and then we'll answer it in real time, and then you'll see that this is not a pre-recorded interview.
I really like the painting in the background. Did you paint that?
So yes, the cats are doing really well. Thanks, Emma. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for catching up with us. You guys are awesome. Please take care.
Thank you for having us on.
Big thank you to Emma and Fiona for catching up with us, and of course
we'll leave a link to their channel in the description below. Yeah, we've seen a few anglers out and about, and we're really happy that people are able to get out and do things that they love, like we are when we go for water.
Yes.
The one thing that's quite noticeable, the section of canal that we're on, the towpath isn't very wide, and some of the choices that the anglers have picked for their spots have been quite interesting, because they've actually been on rather narrow sections.
Yes.
And whilst we understand that they may not feel in danger themselves, I personally we've talked about it quite a bit, feel like perhaps they aren't necessarily being considerate for what other people might want to do, and other people may not think when they go onto the towpath, so they're not wide enough for me to social distance, and then find it very intimidating when they come across an angler or two sat on a really narrow bit, because they're given the choice of risking their health because they don't know these people, or turning back and ending their walk early, and they're just as entitled to use the towpath as we are, or as anglers are. So it's quite a tricky time, and very interesting to talk about how people's attitudes are. And the other thing that we've decided is that certain incidences that happen, like the problems that we had several weeks ago with dogs trying to get on our boat, are not really lockdown specific. Having really analysed it to death between the two of us, we've realised that these things happen all the time. It's just because you've got an increased awareness of the distance between yourself and other people that you're perhaps more sensitive to it.
Yes.
And certainly in the case of Emma and Fiona, they were recovering from coronavirus and didn't know how infectious they were or anything like that. So sort of tensions are heightened, aren't they?
I think so.
I think it's a really good. There was a lot of talk at the beginning about how this disaster was going to cause everybody to be so much nicer to each other, and I don't really think that that's the case, because nice people are nice anyway.
Yeah.
And people that are entitled and do whatever they want in a global pandemic as well.
Yeah. And I think it's hard for people to experience change, and we've all had to experience change, and there's not a mental health expert necessarily on the global pandemic government site telling us all how to deal with it. It's just, here's lockdown, and people who are going to insist on their liberty are going to insist, and people who aren't are going to be shut in. We have a theory that all the nice people are
in their houses,
social distancing and self-isolating in their houses, and some of the not so nice people who just want to trudge up and down the towpath yelling at you are just trudging up and down the towpath yelling at you.
That's not, it's a small minority of people, because some people that are nice are also out on the towpath because
it's very true.
Hi to them.
Yes, that's true.
But I think they're more respectful of distancing and why you might be anxious, because with the guidelines issued by CRT, if you're worried about distance from people walking past, then you should be inside your boat. But because of the traffic in some areas, you're basically condemning boaters to being stuck inside.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure a lot of you people that live in apartments can understand why we're frustrated by that, because you're experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, and we get to go out in the evening, as you guys know. It's 8 o'clock now, and it's bright daylight, so we're not actually that concerned. It's when we have other people on the towpath that we can't social distance from, that are telling us to get off the towpath, it becomes a little bit tricky. But then again, it's just about us managing how we feel about the situation as well, as I'm sure you guys are doing the same at home. Ooh, come on, Moo.
Will know that we don't really like to have the cats out on the back of the boat whilst we're moving, because you never know if they're going to fall off or jump onto land, and we don't want to lose them. But we've made a special treat of it today, because we're moving the boat in their key outside time, and also because they haven't really been in the last few vlogs, and we know that you guys are missing them.
Munchie, good boy. Come here, come on. You can make it. Come on. Munchie Moo. Down here. Come on. Munchie. Come on. boy. Come on. There you go then. Good girl. There you go. There you go. Good girl. It's your little foot.
That was nice, wasn't it?
Today is our 1 year anniversary of owning and crewing Lazy Days. So yay, congratulations to us.
If you're wondering what it's like to move onto a narrowboat, then I've linked 2 playlists in the description below. One of which is when we first moved on to our first narrowboat, and then the second one is the process when we moved between the first narrowboat to the second narrowboat. They're both very compelling viewing. Lots about downsizing and all that kind of stuff, so check them out if you've got time. If you have enjoyed cruising along with us and the cats today, then please do subscribe and give the video a like, and we will be back again soon with some cruising in a different direction.